Welcome to Smart Remarks, where we get this strange idea that Sandy was trying to tell us something. So here we are just a couple days after Hurricane Sandy, which dealt Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, a glancing blow. But of course, you saw the devastation in New York City at the Jersey Shore. If you're in a situation like that, we pray that you be safe. It's kind of poetic justice, unfortunately, because climate change hasn't really been discussed as part of this campaign. Mitt Romney sort of dismissed it during one of the debates. So, here comes Hurricane Sandy with a vengeance, bringing climate change back into the discussion, whether the candidates wanted it or not. Now, as we've said many, many times, one cannot connect a single weather event with climate change. There are plenty of scientists saying that if climate change was a factor in Sandy, it's very, very indirectly a warming ocean, greater volumes of rainfall, that sort of thing. But I want to read to you something that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said earlier this week. He said, quote, "There's been a series of extreme weather incidents. That is not a political statement. That is a factual statement. Anyone who says there is not a dramatic change in weather patterns is denying reality." And so we keep banging the climate change drum here at Smart Remarks for one reason, and that's because there are so many conservatives out there who remain outraged at the mere suggestion that the climate could be changing. No, don't trust your lying eyes. Trust the likes of Rush Limbaugh, who earlier this week declared that climate change has been proven a hoax. Right you are, Rush! Isn't that your sofa floating down the street? But one has to wonder, why do conservatives insist on denying what they and everyone else are seeing right before our very eyes? For some of them, of course, it is because they don't believe this is happening, even though the overwhelming scientific consensus is that it is. Rather, I think there are many conservatives who are reluctant to accept that the climate is changing because if they do, they're implicitly acknowledging that they have to then do something about it. And what really are we going to do? What, are we all going to start driving hybrids? Are we all going to start, we're all going to use less power? But how am I going to power my iPad then? Conservatives are rightly suspicious of our ability to affect a wholesale change in our behavior, but so are some liberals. And I got to say that, I consider myself an environmentalist or environmentally minded, but there's a lot of libs or greenies or environmentalists, whatever you want to call it, who seem to think that we can replace the existing fossil fuel structure with a couple wind farms and some solar generators and all is going to be well. That's probably not going to be the case. One of the blogs I read is a site called The Automatic Earth. And one of the writers there last week, who goes by the handle of Stonely, wrote about how we're not going to do this. It's a pipe dream to think we're going to replace fossil fuels with a top-down distributed model of renewable fuels. She wrote, quote, "Our current fossil fuel system constitutes the costliest and most extensive set of installations, networks, and machines that the world has ever built, one that has taken generations and tens of trillions of dollars to put in place." So what are we going to do? We're just going to replace those with some wind farms? Who's going to pay for that? Where's the money going to come from? Where are we going to build it? How long is it going to take it to build? Will it generate the same amount of power? And if it doesn't, what happens then? These are questions a lot of conservatives do ask, and I think liberals need to ask them as well. But sort of as an aside in her post, Stonely said that the top-down distribution model actually misses the true potential of renewable energy, which is, quote, "to provide small-scale distributed supply directly adjacent to demand as negative load." And you know what that means, right? That doesn't mean a solar farm down the street. It means solar panels on your roof. It means geothermal at your house. It means individual solutions as a means of affecting a collective solution. It means the government top-down model might not work unless we're talking about government subsidization of individuals rather than the companies that make the solar panels. Right now you can get a pretty nice tax break for installing solar panels on your roof. Maybe the tax break ought to be a whole lot more. Maybe government ought to take the money that it's now giving to the producers and direct all of it to the consumers as a means of creating a market, creating demand for the product, and then the producers would then find it profitable to produce. That might be a way of addressing the problem, rather than thinking we're going to wholesale replace what we have now with similar large-scale renewable developments. Because the reality is, with this, as with so much else right now, the answer might not be the top-down model. The answer might be the bottom-up model. I believe, not only do I believe in climate change, but as I have kids, I believe we have a moral obligation to do something about it. It seems to me that doing something at the individual level is a whole lot more practical than trying anything else.